Well, welcome everyone to the SmartStart workshop. Today we are going to be talking about building a customer first business. And that is crucial to the success of your business because after all, without your customers, you wouldn't have a business. But building a business around customers isn't as easy as it sounds. As business owners, we have our own ideas of what customers want or what we think they need. And we try to attract, sometimes people try to attract the wrong customers. So today we have three local business owners who have embraced the customer first business model and are constantly working to improve their customer service and to learn more about their customers and giving them exactly what they want. So we have Sara O'Shea, who's the founder and co-owner of So Chic Boutique in Morton. And we have Michelle White. She's the owner of Captivation Dance in Morton. And we have Weston Berchtold, who is the co-owner of Eli's Coffee in Morton, Tremont, and Metamora. And he's the founder and co-owner of Hancock Build, a website design company. Thank you very much to all of you. I appreciate you for being here. And we've all discussed, we came up with this topic. This is something we talk about once a year, as we tell people they need to really go back and revisit their customers and how they're learning about their customers, how they're serving their customers. It should be an ongoing thing, but to really dive down and stop maybe once a year to do this. So we talked about this um, earlier in the year at the SmartStart Business Conference, and we wanted to do a whole session on it. And we didn't have to because every time we did, these three were in a panel. This is the discussion that came up. So I'm very excited that what we feel as SmartStart is the foundation of your business is that customer discovery, knowing your customers, that as seasoned business owners, that is really something that you put into practice every day. So I am going to start off with just an easy question. And it is, did you know about customer discovery before starting your business? So we'll start up in my, so I'm looking at my screen. Weston, you are first. When you guys started, did you know anything like about the importance of knowing your customers?
Yeah. Well, our story is maybe a little bit different in that we didn't start our business.
Mhm.
Eli's has been around for really 20 years next year, actually.
Wow.
So we got involved. Let's see, the business was started in 2005. We got into it in 2015. So we had a set of customers that were already loyal customers that have been visiting the business for years. But it was a process of discovery for us to really dive into the data. We built out a lot of systems very early on to help understand what our customers are buying, what our customers are wanting. Yeah, so it's been a constantly evolving process to capture customers, friends, and things, what they're buying now, what they're not buying, and hopefully what they'll be buying in the future.
So you used a lot of data to find that out. You looked at your sales data, find out more about what they were buying, what they weren't, what their wants were.
Yeah, yeah, I think for us, I guess one of the biggest things that we realized was that in our business, when we rely on a lot of smaller repeat transactions, what our customers say they want and what they're actually purchasing doesn't always exactly line up.
Yes.
And so it was a matter of trying to balance um, we collect a lot of feedback from surveys that we send out once a year or so. But then we balance that with the actual, like, here's what the customers are buying. Here's so it was striking a balance between what is their wallet saying and what is the voice saying.
Right. We always said that customers will vote with their dollars, not always by
Hmm.
what they say, like, but where's their money going? Um,
Yes.
Sara, what about you when you started So Chic? What was your, how did you know that that was important, the whole customer discovery?
Yeah, it was actually incredibly important to me when I started the boutique side, because I actually, when I was in college, I paid my way through college working in a small business selling wedding dresses and tuxedos to brides and grooms. And unfortunately, I had a front row seat to a non-customer focused business.
Uh,
So I got to see firsthand an owner who was all about the owner and all about their own vision for the business without listening to the customers, without listening to feedback, without being open to feedback, without even inviting feedback from the team or from customers. And so that shaped me very early on, long before I even knew that I would have a business of my own, that if and when that time came, that would not be. I always think there's a lot of value in learning how you want to do things, but there's also sometimes even more value in learning how you don't want to do things. And for me, seeing that
Yes.
was really big for me. I mean, that was my entire college career, and I kept thinking, that's not how I would do that. That's not how I would do that. And so then fast forward a couple years later, when I started my first business, which was the wedding and event planning business, which was 100% a service-based business. I had no product that I was exchanging with my customers. It was truly, they were buying me. They were buying the service that I was providing, which was planning their wedding or their special event. And so I had that business for 6 years before I started the boutique, which is a product-based exchange business. And so having that service business first has completely shaped how I approach the boutique and the more transactional, which what could be a transactional based business. But for me, I've always looked at it differently, just because I had that not so great experience, but then also 5, 6 years of building a business that was literally, they were investing in me. And so I wanted to make sure that that investment continued when we transitioned to a brick and mortar store.
That's brilliant. We were going to come back to that, but that so many times it's right. You learn I always say it's better to learn from other people's mistakes if you can, like just to watch and see so you don't have to repeat it yourself. You can learn either way, but it's better just to watch. But we're going to come back to that. Michelle, what about customer discovery? Because I know you walked through the customer discovery training through SmartStart, but was that your first experience with the customer discovery, or how did you know about that in the first before you because you bought your business, right?
Yeah. So I'm kind of actually a combination of both of them. I bought the business that was already in existence. But even prior to that, most of my background from working from college on was in small businesses. So I had a really close hand at that. Even my grandparents and my dad owned a small business, so it's kind of in my blood. And then I took over the business because my daughter was there. So I was firsthand watching what the previous owner was doing. So kind of what Sara was talking about is I was seeing, oh, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I would do this differently. So I kind of had a bunch of things coming together. And then on top of that, I am a trained health coach. And through my training, they take us through a lot of business training. And we talked a lot about finding your niche and finding your customer and the pain points. And so by the time I got to SmartStart, it kind of solidified what we had already been doing in the business. We did do some work at the start. We thought we knew what we wanted. And then as we got going, like Weston was talking about, what we thought they wanted is not where the dollars are being spent. So we shifted and went a totally different way, even within our first season of owning the studio.
So I'll shift to my second question, and we'll just go and keep with you, Michelle, because you're on that line. So how did you really find out what your customers wanted then? Did you do surveys? Did you ask them? Did you just watch what classes they signed up for? How did that work in your business? Because you do I guess I should have said Captivation Dance. You are a dance studio.
Yes. And fun fact for anyone looking to get into a business, do not buy a service-based business in the middle of COVID, because that's what I did. I took over in September of 2020. So our student body in the spring of 2020 was 282 under the previous owner. And by the time it switched to my hands in September, we were down to 73. Wow. So it was a major, major blow. And in that first season, we were kind of trying to get anyone to come in the door. That's what we wanted. We were trying to get back some of our kids that went to other dance studios. And when we realized that wasn't working, Emily, who's my creative director, we sat down and I said, we got to think about this as a long-term game as opposed to the short-term tomorrow. And I said, we need to start going after the preschoolers, the kindergartners, the first graders, the young kids, because then if we can get them in the door, we can start building the program that we want from square one. And so that's what we did. We focused all of our marketing and all of our efforts to preschools, grade schools, anything and everything that young kids were at. And that's really how we've grown. We've started just trying to get in the babies, and we're trying to
Mhm.
build them up from there.
And how do you find out what classes are going to work and what don't?
Yeah, that's a trial and error. There are obviously, if you look at dance studios, even in our area across the country, you have very basic things that almost all of us do. But even into this year, we listen to what people are saying. We listen to where we're hearing gaps in the market.
Hmm.
So, like this season, we started a new class that's specifically for junior high and high school girls who are trying to make the dance team but don't have a home studio. They want to dance at school, but they don't have a home dance studio. So we
Oh, okay.
started a class for them. And like I said, sometimes it's just Emily saying, "Oh, I want to give this a shot," and we try. And like our adult program took 3 years to get off the ground. We kept trying, we kept trying, we kept trying different styles, different times, different days. Now we have like 50 adults with us. So
Right.
sometimes if you believe that it's what you're supposed to be doing, you got to just keep trying different ways, different things, talk to people, you know,
It goes
that's
back
what
to
worked
that,
for
like,
us.
just the iteration and change. Maybe, this is people want this, but people don't know what they want sometimes. And you just have to,
Yeah.
they just want, how can we tweak this to make it really what they want? So that's really learning the times and the styles. And so, yeah, trial and error is
Yep.
huge.
Yes.
So Weston, you talked about how you talked to, yours was basically how you did your customer research was just looking at your sales data and your surveys. Was it online surveys or anything you want to add to that
Yeah.
about how you discovered
Yes.
or learned more about your
So,
customers?
once a year we do try to send out a customer survey, and that's pretty broad. It really helps us kind of figure out trends on where we want to go over the next couple of years. Just doing broad information from our customers about their current experience, what they would like to see, where the pain points have been. Um, so that gives us a really good sort of annual broad view. And we target those surveys to some of our regular existing customers. So we are very specific about who we send out to, if that was sales volume, if they've been
Right.
ordering with us for a while in order to be included in those
Okay.
surveys. So that really helps us understand, our it's for us, we always want to go back to making sure that our existing customers are remaining well. Um, we don't want to shoot off in some directions, may attract some new customers while sacrificing our existing customers. So,
Right.
a lot of that data is from long-time existing customers. But then, yeah, we look at our sales goals. For us, because we have our business is so reliant on these small regular transactions, with a large group of people, we really focus on broad data. Uh, in fact, we have this kind of rope that we use where we say if you can remember the name of a customer who likes that item, it's probably time to get rid of that item.
Uh,
Because you know that this one person likes this one thing, but 98% of other customers are enjoying something else.
right.
So we really try to base product decisions on broad information,
Okay.
and our individual customer feedback really helps the customers. So somebody has a negative experience, we take that one person, that one incident, um, and bring that back to our team. But if we have one person saying they like this one item, that part is not sufficient.
Yeah, right. You can't make money off just one person.
Yes, yeah.
So,
In our business, like others will look for differences.
right.
In my web design business, it's totally opposite. Focus a lot of time on others' clients, um, and one individual voice I'm looking for is really big difference.
Gotcha. So Sarah, your business, your boutique, I always think when I walk into So Chic Boutique, it feels like it's like a little department store of gifts. Like there's something for everyone in there. And I've watched it grow over the years and how you've curated each section and each part just so thoughtfully and carefully. And I just feel like you know your customers so well. In each of those, like you don't just have like one customer, you have all these different types of customers. So what's the process you go through? What are the biggest, the most important things that you think that you do to make sure that you know your customer in all those different areas?
I'm a feedback junkie, whether it's my business or my personal life. Like I love, even when I was in high school, I'd be like, what do you think of me? What could I be doing better? How could I be a better person? What would make you like me more? Which it probably sound, it's a little people pleasing. But it also comes from this, like I crave feedback because I feel like that's how we learn and we grow. And so I probably invite feedback more than most into their small businesses and in their personal life. We do, similar to Weston, we do an annual customer survey every year on January 1st. We send out a penny for your thoughts customer survey that's just like 12 questions or so. And they're very similar questions all 11 years that we've been around, so that we can kind of gauge some of those reactions. What are we doing well? What could we do better? What are our blind spots? Some of those kinds of questions that we're looking for. So that's great for that big, broad perspective. And we specifically do it in January because more than likely, if they are one of our customers, they have shopped with us in November or December. And so we are fresh in their mind because they've been in during the holidays. And so we don't want them to think, what was it like 7 months ago when I was there last? We want them to think, within the last 8 weeks, what did they experience? And so we do the annual customer survey. Once a quarter, we do social media surveys where it's very just quick reaction, gut check kinds of things. What are we doing well? On a scale of 1 to 10, how was your customer service the last time you were in? Because that gives us very real-time feedback that I can share with our team and that we can grow from. But I also rely very heavily on our team for feedback. We keep a daily log because our team, I'm sure Weston, you're similar. I'm not in both of my stores all day, every day, listening to every customer interaction or every customer picking something up and saying, oh, I wish you had such and such, or, oh, I would buy more of this if you had that, or have you ever thought about carrying XYZ? And so we have a daily log that the team writes those things in because it's also easy to go out of their mind. And we review that log often, and we track. Our kind of rule of thumb is if something's been suggested more than 3 times by 3 different people, then maybe it's something we really need to look at. So we're kind of doing the big picture with the survey, the quick hitting social media things, but then also our daily log. We do a team planning retreat with our team once or twice a year where we're digging in their brains and seeing what works for them and what could be going better. So we try to hit it from every viewpoint because yes, customer feedback is great, but your team is also executing all of the ideas, and they may have an idea rattling around that if they're not given the opportunity, they wouldn't just come out with it, but in the right format, they are willing to give that feedback. And so we try to provide that opportunity for them to do that.
So that brings me to my next question, Sarah, was about, I'll start with you, about your team, both from does your team, I guess, so does your team, they know to be listening, right? For these different kind of feedback, and they're like actively engaged in that customer discovery process. So do you have like, how do they funnel that feedback back to you?
So when we do new team member onboarding, the first 3 pages of our employee manual actually have nothing to do with processes or systems or checklists or any of that. The first 3 pages of our manual is what we call the So Chic spirit. And we talk about how we want to engage with our customers, things we want them to remember about having a touch point with us, how we want them to feel when they're in their store, how do we want them to feel when they leave the store and leave the experience. And then also we train a lot on how we want team members to feel, because those team relationships, sure, we all know if we've managed people, if you don't have good relationships amongst your team, you're going to fall short on the customer service side over and over. And so to me, right, I mean, from the second that they are onboarded as a team member, I want it in their mind that we are more than, and we are not just the product that we are selling. We are the environment that we are creating. We are the relationships that we're building. And I tell them straight out of the gate, the only time in my 11 years of having the boutique, the only time I've ever fired employees, it's actually never had anything to do with processes or systems, because those are very teachable and trainable. It has always been back to the relationship or the customer service aspect. So I set that expectation early that I'm going to make sure that they can nail the systems and the to-do list, but the experience is something that is non-negotiable, at least in our environment. So I think setting that tone really early when you're onboarding, whether you have a large team or a really small team, I think setting that expectation and getting that in their minds of, these are the relationships we want you to create. These are things we want you to be listening for and pass back to us, the good things and the negative things. We all know
Right.
customers have lots of opinions about how they would do it if they were doing it, even though they aren't the ones doing it. So
Right.
some of that feedback is really helpful, and some of that feedback you just have to let go of.
Right.
But I think creating that environment of, I want our team to pass feedback along. I want them to engage in our conversations with customers and have meaningful relationships. I think setting that tone right out of the gate makes a huge difference.
So you answered my second question. So I will take the second question then to Michelle. What do you do then for your team? So A, is your team, are they involved in that feedback mechanism? And B, what are you doing to create that customer experience, that customer first experience, knowing who your customers are and what you want to accomplish? How do you set your team up so that they, like she said, give the So Chic experience, so give that Captivation dance experience?
Yeah. I am very lucky that my team just kind of fell in place. I mean, like my hip hop teacher, we literally found him on an Instagram search. Just
Oh,
happened to
wow.
find an article about him. He was a 17-year-old from Delavan. So I have all these phenomenal people that love dance and they love what they do. I sometimes can't get them to leave the studio because they just want to be there all the time. So I think I talked about this at the workshop too, that it starts with us as the owners. I don't sit in my office with the door closed and do nothing. Like I'm out there hands on with the families, just like the rest of them are, because I don't want to have that expectation for my team and not be fulfilling it myself. I don't want to ever be a leader that says, we need to do this, we need to do this. I'll be back there drinking coffee while you guys are out here doing the
Right.
groundwork.
Right.
I'm not a super religious person, but I did learn a really good lesson at church when I was serving at Elevate with the young kids. They taught us that you could be the Jesus that the kid sees for that week. Like that one moment that they're with you could be the bright spot in their week. And so we kind of have that same philosophy that we have 263 kids with us right now. We have no idea what those kids are going through every day at
Right.
school. Bullying is so prevalent right now with young kids. So we try to teach the staff, like, hey, you have these kids for 30 minutes. Every single one of them needs to be seen and heard and felt by you. You need to be that bright, shiny spot in their week because we have no idea what happens when they leave our doors. So we
Right.
definitely do things like get down to their level, speak to them, not like above them. Ask them, hey, how's your week? How's your dog? Hey, I heard you went to grandma's. How was grandma's house? So we try to be really purposeful with that one-on-one and with as many of the kids as we can, learning names, learning families, learning favorite colors, all that kind of stuff. And then as far as like facilitating that with my team, like I said, it starts with me. I make sure I keep an open door policy. They are more than welcome to come in, share ideas, share griefs. Trying to think about it. Emily and I both, once a year, we go in and we observe the teachers. And so we do feedback that way too with them. We let them
Oh,
know,
okay.
like, hey, these are things you can be improving on with things like classroom management, technique. We actually developed and wrote all of the technique that we teach at Captivation. So we try to make sure that all of our teachers are on board with that. And like I said, I just have phenomenal people that love what they do. I'm very lucky in that
That makes
realm.
that makes a huge difference, though. The people, like Sarah
Yeah.
says, the people, it's the right people to plug in. It's not just a job. You're creating, both of you are creating that culture. And
Yeah.
culture is beyond, culture is where your business is. It's not just the building. It's the culture that brings people in. And like, oh, and then we get to dance, or oh, and we get to buy pretty things. But there's that culture
Yeah.
of how you feel when you come in. And I feel the same thing when we go into Eli's. It's like, it's just friendly. Your people are like, hi, how are you? Always smiling faces, you know. So what do you do, Weston, to bring your employees in on this process?
Yeah. Well, very similar to what Sarah and Michelle said. First of all, Sarah, I love the idea of a daily customer feedback log. That's fantastic. I think that could be really valuable.
Yes, everybody
Um,
make a note of that.
yeah, yeah. We start with customer service with our team. Whenever we're hiring new baristas, like Sarah said, we're able to train on all of the process stuff. You don't coffee shop experience or even food service experience when you start with us. Those are all very set things that are super simple to show you how to use and to understand. The thing that is not simple and that takes a lot of effort and a lot of training are those skills, the customer connection. So that's really where we focus in our training, also just in our culture in general. Rachel and I, we often say that Eli wouldn't necessarily need to sell coffee. We could sell anything. And our mission is the same. We're really just focused on building customer connections. Coffee happens to be a really amazing vehicle for that. It, Food and drink bring people together in a way that's really special. Excuse me. And so, uh, yeah, but that's what it's about for us is bringing people together, and our team is a huge part of it. I think while we're really proud of our coffees and our drinks and food at Eli's, we also recognize that there are options. There are plenty of places that you can go, especially in Morton, for a cup of coffee or something to eat. And so for us, I think one of the things that really sets Eli's apart is the care that we put into our team and how they connect with our customers into the shop. Our goal is to always send people on their way happier than when they arrived.
I love that.
Like Michelle said, you're sometimes you're dealing with people who are really going through something, and you have this small opportunity to make the deal.
Right.
So yeah, we try to instill those kind of values with our team from early on.
I guess along with that, just a quick, do you guys, so Sarah mentioned that she actually has like a handbook, and we talked about it a lot, especially in the HR session of the workshop, the business conference. Do you guys have an employee handbook or SOPs that they go through? I know Sarah does. Michelle, do you do? And Weston, you actually have a printed manual, and that those kind of things are in there?
We don't get printed manuals anymore. Yeah, we have we kind of do a hybrid training approach. So we begin with an online training course for all of our new employees. They spend time going through that, and then we begin in-person training in the shops.
Awesome.
Yes, we have multiple tablets throughout the shop that contain all of our resources, policies, things like that. So we try to keep the experience consistent across our locations.
Right. So that's another tip for people who are watching, to have policies in place. So every time you bring an employee on, they get the same training, the same experience. And because you can't just expect them to know all these things. So it's good to have something to come back to, or at least I like the idea of having an online place to do that too, some online training. What was my question? All right. So going back to thinking about your customer feedback and thinking about not just, the negative or positive things you hear in the store, but when you're actually asking and on your surveys, was there something, would love an example of a time when a customer feedback directly influenced a major decision or a pivot in your business? So does everyone have something on Sarah's smile? Sarah, what do you have? What was that piece of feedback, and how did you use that to change your business? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. My dog was snoring, sleeping. I didn't want you to hear the snores.
I get that.
Actually, I'm smiling because customer feedback completely changed the trajectory of So Chic Boutique. When we first opened, so I had mentioned I was a wedding and event planner before I had the stores. And so my passion was and still is, I love parties, I love hosting, I love entertaining, I love styling pretty tablescapes. So when we opened, we were probably 80% party supplies and 20% gifts. And over time, we would hear customers say, I love your store. I love the experience. It's so beautiful, but I only host a party once or twice a year. I wish I could come here for all the parties that I go to. And literally that one little piece of feedback, I was like, okay, they're coming here for the parties that they host very infrequently, but they're going to parties, or they're celebrating people, or they're celebrating occasions all the time. And so now we're probably 90% gifts and 10% party supplies. We probably don't necessarily need the party supplies anymore, but it's just like passion for me. So we'll always have a little bit of them.
Right.
COVID killed the party business in many ways anyways.
Mm.
But I mean, I think of it often that what our business would be today is totally different. I mean, I would have continued following the path, and I'm sure we would have eventually gotten there and maybe evened out those percentages. But hearing some of those same consistent pieces of feedback, love your store, love the experience, wish I had a reason to come back more often. Just I mean, it just changed the entire future. I don't think we would have 2 locations now. I don't think we'd be doing the revenue we are doing now if it weren't for not just here. I think that's a big thing too for business owners is we can all hear feedback, but listening to the feedback and acting upon it
Right.
is different. And I think sometimes when I gave that example of business owner earlier, she would hear feedback all the time, good feedback, not great feedback, but never acted on it. And that was really important to me is if I'm going to ask for feedback and I'm going to invite it, I also have to be willing to receive it and act on it.
Right. That's brilliant. So, and that's interesting because I do remember when it's first day, I'm like, oh, it's a party store.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. It's not anymore.
No, I still go there for party stuff, but yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. You go there for all the gifts.
Yeah.
So Michelle, is there any piece of feedback that really changed your business?
Yeah, we actually have one both ways. When we first started, Emily and I really felt strongly that we wanted to build a technique-based studio. That was the training that we wanted to do. That was the direction that we wanted to go. So when we first took over, the previous owner did a lot with connections, people she knew, and stuff like that. So we stayed away from that. And then our first year, we had a mom come in who was upset with where her daughter was placed and said, well, we came here so she could dance with her friends. And I said, if you want me to build a business based on her friends today, it's never going to happen because her friends today will not be her friends tomorrow, will not be her friends a year from now. So we did not change our business model based on that feedback from that family. But as I said earlier, we've been hearing a lot of, oh, well, I wish that somewhere had a thing like this, or I wish somewhere had a dance class for that. So we put 2 in place this season. One was for the junior high and high school dancers who are trying to make a dance team.
Mhm.
And the other is for advanced adults. There's a lot of dance classes in the area for beginners, but for the kids who have graduated high school or college who have a lot of dance experience, there's really nowhere for them to go at this point. So we also started a class this year for intermediate and advanced adults based on the feedback that we were getting.
Oh, love it. I love it. I can
Yeah.
see that would be, yeah. So, Weston, what did you guys do?
Yeah, so I think the one of the biggest, most recent examples we have is we over the past several months have been collecting information from our customers on new drink categories. What we were finding was a lot of our customers had been asking for a like refresher style or energy drink type beverage. Um, we had seen some slowing sales in coffee. We're seeing less young people buy coffee drinks, and so the writing was kind of on the wall there for us to kind of rethink our menu a little bit. So a couple of months ago, we took after taking a lot of customer feedback, we did a specific survey for it, and then just looking through all of our sales, we launched a new menu called our Kids menu, which is an entire line of non-coffee drinks. It uses natural plant-based energy and can be customized in a variety of ways. And it was a completely new menu for us. And it was the first completely new regular menu we got. So, I think that was very much about trying to understand what especially some of our younger customers are wanting, and combining those different feedback avenues of customer feedback directly, but also looking at sales trends, but also looking at data from other competitors too.
Right.
We certainly looked at some of the national competitors, Starbucks, Dunkin', what their menus look like. It's not all internal information that we look at either. We do try to see what other businesses, small and large, space as well.
So how did that new menu, what did you learn after you launched that menu? Since you said it's something new and it was what people said they wanted, how did that go? And then what did you learn? Did you have to do any tweaks from that, or what did you learn from that experience?
Yeah. Yeah, it's gone really well so far. The menu has certainly been successful, and we're really
Good.
proud of how it's performing. But yeah, there are always tweaks that we need to make in terms of, the flavors that we're offering, some of the drinks with fruit or inclusions. So that's kind of our ongoing process with all of our menu items,
Mhm.
is with every new seasonal menu, or every quarter or 6 months, we sit down and we say, okay, here is our top performers, here's our bottom performers, and usually those ones at the bottom end up getting changed. And yeah, we just kind of try to find what fits our customers and what they like.
All right, so I want to ask, because I'm respectful of everyone's time, I'm going to ask you one final question. I'm going to tweak it a little bit. I'm going to have Sarah answer it differently than you guys. Since Sarah, you have been at your business since the beginning. So speaking to that emerging business owner who's just starting out, and the importance of a customer first business, from providing the products and services they want to um, providing the atmosphere and that culture that they want to come to. What is the biggest piece of advice that you have, or maybe pieces? Like, what's the thing that they should make sure they don't skip, or that maybe something, or a resource or a process that you think would be very beneficial to them?
Oh gosh, that's a great one. I think a big part, I mean, I kind of mentioned it at the very beginning, where I think there's a lot of value in seeing what others are doing and seeing when I mean, whether you're working in a small business and you get a front row seat to something that's working well or something that's not. I think there's a lot of value in that. I also think there's a lot of value in just visiting other businesses that inspire you, or whether it's big box or small business, and really looking at them through the lens of, if I were doing this in my own unique way, what am I inspired by? What would I do differently? What could I learn from? And then how do I make it my own? So I love to travel, and I love to see other businesses in other communities. So yes, look in your own community, because obviously that's what's close and what's familiar, but get out of the market in which you want to create a business. Go, I don't even care, it's 2 hours away, go for a little road trip, whatever. Go into the businesses that are similar, and even businesses that are dissimilar from yours, to see what it is that they're doing. How are they interacting with their customers? How do you feel when you're there? How are they packaging up the items that you're buying? What is the customer interface? What's the point of sale system? I just think there's so much value in going and seeing what others are doing, and not from a sense that, well, I like that, I'm going to copy that. Because I'm sure Michelle and Weston would agree, nothing is more frustrating as a current business owner than seeing someone who's new be like, well, that's working for them, so I'm going to do it too. Like, and feeling it more from a copying standpoint versus a being inspired standpoint, and then making it your own. So I would say seek out as many opportunities as you can to be inspired by what others are doing, and then figure out how you can do it in your own unique way, not a copy and paste, but really put your own stamp on it and make it something unique to your business. I just think there's so much value in learning from others.
That's brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. So, Michelle, coming from a business owner who you bought your business, it's already established. So, speaking to the person who's doing the same thing, buying another business, or someone who's maybe been established in business a while, because your business, a lot because of the pandemic, you had to go through some pivots and some evolution. But speak to that person who's in the middle of a business. How can they keep that process of speak to the importance of keeping the process of customer development open, to always be listening to your customers? And what is the biggest piece of advice you would give to someone to do that?
I think building on top of what Sara said, you have to continually want to do that, if that makes sense. When we took over, we looked at the things that the previous owner was doing really, really well as far as the customer experience. We've always been known for being very family friendly, very welcoming, very tight knit, and I really loved that about that. So we kept that. But then, as we grew and we started to implement our beliefs and our what we wanted to do with the business, we continued to question and look at what are people liking and what are people not liking. So I think going off what she said, you know, go and see other people, talk to other people, keep asking questions, just keep learning. I think that's a misconception about being a business owner, is that you kind of start it and then it just does its own thing.
Right.
That's not really true. You have to, it's
No.
every day working at it and putting in the time. And I think one thing that all three of us have said in one way or another is, yes, the three of us do very different things, but at the heart of what all of us do is we serve people. That's, like Weston said, his vehicle is coffee, mine is dance, but we know and understand that these are kids that we are interacting and developing. It just happens to be dance is the thing that we use for that interaction. So I think knowing
Right.
that too, at the end of the day, you're serving people no matter what you're doing.
Right. That's brilliant. And to know that, just maybe that's the biggest tip, just to know that that's the actual goal. That's the actual thing you do. Like you could, like Weston said before, they could serve anything. They could sell anything, but what they're doing is that customer to have that. So that's brilliant. Thank you. Weston, what is your big piece of advice for a business owner who is in the midst of it? Like, what is your advice to them to keep that process going, to learn, to any tweak on that you want to add that you think that we haven't covered yet today?
Yeah. I would say one of the things that we try to do, especially after having done this for a while, for my wife and I, it'll be 10 years. We always try to think of today as day zero. Today is the first day you've got a brand new business. So it's not holding any of our products as sacred. It's looking at the menu and saying, we need to take an objective look at this because it will change. Um, you know, we could do a drink exactly right and do it right every single time, and customers could love it every single time. But eventually, trends are going to change, customers' tastes are going to change. You can't hope to set up your business one way and expect it to continue to be successful long term. Customers change, preferences change, and so
Right.
yeah, we try to start from day zero.
I think that's why we go through, we tell everybody to go through customer development at least once a year, because like you said, it changes. And it's not just about the customers change. Maybe you as a business owner have changed. What are those things
Yeah,
what are the trends? And I love the idea of adding into our yearly, um, into this process, and maybe even the yearly checklist. I love the idea of maybe we should do some customer discovery and some competitor discovery. What they especially someone who's really up on the trends. Maybe they've done all the research ahead of time, and you can, wow, would that work in my business? I don't know. Could we, like you at Eli's, we launched this, the menu based both off customer feedback and what competitors are doing. So not being afraid to, to kill the sacred cow, for lack of a better term. Like, nothing is sacred sometimes in your business. Well, I want to thank you all very much for sharing your expertise today. Thank you for being back at the conference in April, and we're going to do it again. So I'll be hitting you up again. And for sharing today and just diving deeper on this topic. And at SmartStart, we feel that is so very important. In the if you go to our SmartStart dashboard, which is our online platform, customer development is one of our 4 modules. It's that important. It gets 25% of the business development attention. And if you go there, you can download our toolkits, and it will walk you through the steps of discovering who your ideal customer is. Because something we didn't touch on today, and I think somebody mentioned something, if you listen to the wrong people, like I think Sara said, not every bit of feedback do we take as gospel, as worthy, because some people aren't our customer. So you have to figure out who that ideal customer is, and then get to learn about them and learn how to serve them better. So that is all in the SmartStart dashboard. So you can download that and walk through that process. And as always, if you have any questions or problems, you can email us at SmartStart. You can direct message us, and we would love to help you. So thank you everyone for your time today. I really appreciate it.